Um, I'd like to start with my title, which is Rewriting the Individual and Global Narrative. So this has to do with our story, and everybody has a story. Now, I come to you as a therapist, but I started out as a mental health researcher. As a matter of fact, that was my undergrad degree, was mental health research. And what I wanted to research was how we learn and process information. I wanted to find out how we learn to be racist, or how we learn to see people as different, how we learn to hate, how we learn all those things. So I started out wanting to, just very curious about this. And so I did some work at Cornell University on a research project, and my research project at that time, now keep in mind this was in the early 80s, so I reinvented myself several times, and many of you know that, especially if you're over 60 like me. So back then I was at Cornell, and I saw this TV show, and I said, oh my gosh, this is such a destructive TV show. It was called Cops. And I said, I have got to find out, because I have this inner knowing that this is generating a fear of people of color. This is generating hate. And so as I was doing my research and I was trying to uncover why we hate and why we live in such a violent society sometimes, and with the mass shootings, this has come up again. And it's because we are trained at an early age to see that there is a persecutor, a victim, and it generates fear. So if you can see this as a triangle, it's like there has to be like a bad guy, there has to be a victim, a good guy, and then it has to bring out some type of hate or some type of fear. And this is what generates, and when I say generates, it creates an energy. This is, I call it the trifecta of chaos. It's my own. Maybe I should write a book about it. The trifecta of chaos. We're taught at an early age, whether it's video games or story time, that there has to be a villain, a victor, a hero, and then there has to be some conflict because fear is generated. And so you see this, when we're young. And then you watch the news, and there always has to be a villain, somebody that they're victimizing, and out of that comes a fear which generates conflict, struggle, hate, and oftentimes leads to violence. And if we see this in our stories, if we see this in the news, and sometimes we see it in our family because that's what we're exposed to. So and so did this. Well, we don't want that, so we have to create this conflict and chaos. And this is something that you can see generated in the world. All you have to do is look at the news or listen to a neighbor talk to you about something. And sure enough, somebody's out to get us. There's the victim, and then there's somebody that's out to get you, and that's the persecutor. And oh, it generates so much fear in us that we need to act, or we need to just think of them as separate. So when I worked for the county, I was a therapist for family services, and I worked with child protective services. So I was a therapist working with the biological parents, with the foster kids that had been exposed to abuse and neglect, and also the foster parents. And I worked with the court, so I had all of these people that were my client. And so a lot of times I would be asked to do a family dynamic or family assessment and present it to the court. And sometimes I would have to be on the stand. And one of the things that I noticed a lot was there was triangulation. There's that triangle again. Triangulation, if you look it up, and in psychology it means that it's a manipulation in order to create division and chaos. That is what triangulation is. So if you have one parent accusing another parent of something, and then you're asking the court to resolve something, what you've just done is gone into the trifecta of chaos. Whenever you are just so angry or fearful about something and you feel like you're being persecuted, you've created a victim energy, which is the trifecta of chaos. And we are exposed to that, like I said, from an early age. So triangulation is an intentional way to divide people. Once you understand this concept, then you say, well, why would people want to divide the earth? If we're all exposed to these stories, why is it that it's intentional? Because I'm not the only one that knows this. Um, why would triangulation be a form of communication? And mostly because it's created to divide. And there is a power, like I said, that is generated, chaos, if you divide people. When you're unified, there's a whole different power that is generated. And I want to talk about that. Now, I've talked about it on the global scale. Let's talk about it in the individual scale, because once I saw that years ago, that this is how chaos is generated, I said to myself, well, in metaphysics and in Center for Spiritual Living and Unity, all of these teachings tell us that it starts with us first and then it generates out. And I'm like, so how do I generate the trifecta of chaos? And I want to say that I know who I am, that I'm a God being, but I'm always curious as a researcher as to what am I thinking? And so I want to always have that observer mind where I'm observing my own thoughts. And years ago, I didn't know there was such a thing. My thoughts were my thoughts. I didn't have an observer out here looking at my thoughts. This comes from practice. And some people use meditation or Tai Chi, but being quiet and you're able to observe your thoughts, and they say like clouds passing by, you begin to develop that observer mind. So this is what happened with me, and I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity to observe myself. So I was in Kauai in February celebrating my sister's birthday. They had gone. I stayed a couple of days later, and I signed up on a Groupon for a kayak trip. I thought, oh, this is great. It's a 2-hour kayak trip to the waterfall. It's the only way to get to this waterfall, and a 2-hour back on the kayak. And I thought, great, and it's cheap, and I paid for it, and I show up, and I've never gone kayaking. Now, in the instructions, it didn't say this is not for beginners. So I thought kayaking, I've seen people kayak. I thought that was enough. Here I am, everybody's coupled up except for the instructor. He has a single kayak. Everybody else is in the paired kayak. And I was in a single. And so there was very little instruction. There was just like, we're going to go that way and we're going to go down this river. And he also said that you're going against the current. I didn't think anything of it. Nobody else did, seemed like. So there were about 10 couples and me. And so we get in the water, and I've got my life vest on, and I've got my paddle, and I start doing the motions that you do in kayaking. And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. Then I notice that people are really going away from me. And pretty soon, they're like little dots ahead of me. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh my gosh, I've got to hurry. And I'm moving my arms like I've never moved my arms before. And then I notice that my knuckles are hitting the boat. Okay, now there's blood involved. And I don't remember blood being involved in kayaking. Nobody had mentioned that, but my knuckles are bleeding, and then as I'm going up, I hit myself in the head. Now it looks like I'm bleeding on my head, but it's just my knuckles. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, wow, I did something wrong. So I'm noticing my mind. Okay, my thoughts are like, Karmen, you did something wrong. You signed up for something, and this is for experts, obviously. And then so I was like, am I going to beat myself up? And I said, no, I don't think I'm going to beat myself up. So I changed my thinking. So instead of me being the bad guy, do you see how this works? The trifecta of chaos. Instead of putting me in the bad guy position, because I knew what I was getting ready to do, I said, no, we're not going to go there. Because, the bad guy being, it was going to be me, and then the good guys was going to be the people that are already, so ahead of me, and then, I'm ruining their trip. Do you see how that trifecta works in the chaos? So I said to myself, no, we're not going to go there. And then I thought, they're going to be angry with me. So now I put them in the persecutor role. They're going to be angry with me because that means that they're going to spend less time at the falls because they're waiting on me. Oh, and I was so far behind. Now I'm so far behind that I can't even see them. There's a bend in the river and they're ahead of me. And now I'm thinking, I can't do this trifecta of chaos because every time I found myself doing that, I noticed my rhythm was off. I noticed that I wasn't paddling as good as I was before when I had like, oh, I'm going to be there, it's going to be okay. I noticed that I was sabotaging myself. And so I said, wait a minute, Karmen. I need to start thinking about things that are going to get me to my goal. My goal is to get to where the waterfall is, get to where my tribe is. That's my goal. And anything else is interrupting me getting there. If I'm going to start thinking about the trifecta of chaos, oh, they're going to hate me. That's a fear of not being liked, fear of being judged, fear of all of these things were coming up as I was rowing. And I had to say, no, we're not going there. Karmen, you're doing an awesome job. I had to have my own cheerleader, and it had to be me because there was nobody else in the kayak. So I had to give myself permission to be my own cheerleader. So here's what I was doing. Karmen, you're doing an awesome job. Karmen, you're doing great. Oh, you're getting there. Oh, look at it. Oh, that was good. And I was doing that all the while, and it was serving me so well when I had the highest goal in mind. I had the highest vibration, and I was actually giving myself gratitude. I was saying, oh, you did a good job with that paddle. That was a good stroke. Okay, you steered away from that bank because if you're a beginner, it's hard to go straight. What you end up doing is you start going towards the bank and towards the weeds. I found this out my first time out. So I'm steering away from the bank. I'm trying to go straight. And every time I went straight, I'd be like, oh, that was great. You did such an awesome job. And so I was my best cheerleader, keeping my vibration high and not going into that lower vibration of fear of being judged, fear of being criticized. So I kept doing that. I finally reached my group. My group was all out of the water. They had their kayaks up on the bay there. They were waiting for me. It was obvious of that. And I could feel the anger in the air, the seething resentment of having to wait for this person. And out of nowhere, this woman came over to me. She goes, oh, Karmen, we were waiting for you. Let me help you with your kayak. And she helped me pull the back out of the water and I was a little wobbly. She said, "Oh, sit down over there and let me get you some water." And I said, "Wow, the company has their employees so well trained. I feel so well taken care of. This is wonderful." And then I found out that her name was Maggie. And her husband from Portland, Oregon, were in a tandem kayak. And they knew that I needed help, and they just were so gracious and so wonderful. And they said, "Karmen, when we go back, my husband, you can get in our tandem. John is such an expert on this. We have kayaks back in Oregon. He's going to be the steerer. You can just relax. You don't have to do anything. You'll be in the front, and I'll take yours back." And I was like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, so wonderful. They were such angels." And I knew that if I had fallen into that lower frequency of fear, I do not believe I would have manifested Maggie and John. Miracles happen when we don't fall into that trifecta of chaos. And we've been raised to think that that's the only way you handle situations, is to view them in that way. And I want to show you, because I'm a visual learner, and so I don't want you to look at a triangle exactly the same way. I want you to see that this, when it's inverted like this, that the persecutor, which could have been me, or I could have been the victim in any of those situations. So let's just say that I was thinking that everybody was persecuting me. So here would be all of my group, the 12 couples, and my instructor or the tour guide was right here. And then I was being victimized. The only thing that can come to a point is my fear. My fear of being rejected, my fear of not being good enough, my fear of whatever it is. Your fear is down here, and it generates this energy that keeps it at a lower vibration. Nothing good can come from this because you're coming from fear. So what I did was I inverted it. I said, "I'm in this kayak. There's lots of people ahead of me. Who am I?" I went right up here and I said, "I am powerful. I've got the energy of God within me. All is well. You're doing a good job. Love, compassion. These are higher vibrations. Joy." Do you know, after that incident and we were at the falls, a couple of people came up to me and said, "How are you doing?" And their voice was like, mm. And I was like, "I'm doing great. I'm in Kauai. I'm at a waterfall. This is awesome." But they expected me to be right here. I wasn't. I think it baffled people. They were like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I'm an artist. I do paint in Arizona. I'm a therapist, whatever." I don't know what they wanted to hear, but I'm right here. I can't put a label on this. I was God energy. They, my profession is not going to tell you anything about this. You got that? It's like all of this stuff is happening. Who am I? COVID, who am I? I go right up here. What was I created to be? What is my purpose? Joy, love, compassion. Not this. So this is what's interesting about this. I'm right here. Yes, there's stuff going on, but this is how I interpret it. Love, compassion. And then when I'm full of this, Karmen, you're doing an awesome job. I see the 12 people differently because it came from this beautiful, wonderful God space. Now I see you not as an enemy, not as a victim, not as a persecutor. I see you as a reflection of me. And then the situation changes. That's what changes. That energy that I've created is going to change that situation. So I'm right here. I see, I see the situation. I'm not a good kayaker. Yeah. But who am I? I can go to the distance. I can go the distance. I can get there. I can enjoy my experience. And then when I come down, I see you as a blessing. Oh gosh, you're a blessing. Maggie and John from Portland, Oregon show up. So what did I do? I unlocked a miracle. I unlocked a miracle. And so people ask me, how will the world change? We've had these mass shootings. We've had all of these war. We've had all of this craziness. And I said, you don't unlock it from here. You don't. It cannot. And this is how we're trained to be. So you have to get out of your programming and your training. And people will not understand it because it won't make sense. You're going against the script. You have to unlock it from here. And it won't make sense. Sometimes not even to you, but you do it anyway because you know it works. It's the pyramid of change. It's the pyramid of love. It is a higher consciousness. And you're operating with higher frequencies. But you unlock miracles. You unlock change. Let's take a deep breath. This is a way that you can observe your thoughts in the moment because we really don't know who we are unless we're in the moment observing our thoughts. And this is very powerful because in that moment we can make a change. We don't have to go along with the programming. I always say that you can be so spiritual and so holy in a cave when you're not around people. And it's when we're around people and even outside of our comfort zone, which I was. Did I mention I can't swim either? So every time it tipped over, I was like, oh, is this the day? I'm going to be flapping in the water. So there were all those kinds of fears that were coming up. But I had to go to, who am I? And that wonderful phrase that the burning bush, that energy that is God said, I am that I am. I am that. I am a kayaker today. I am beautiful today. I am loving today. I am compassionate. I am all of that. And then when we put that in the moment, in our most uncomfortable places, is when we unlock the miracles. Let's take a deep breath. Let's go into an affirmative prayer. In our most uncomfortable places, when we don't know right from left, you were just so confused, and we can easily go into fight, flight, or freeze because of our fears coming up. That's when we kick in this glorious energy of change, this pyramid of love, this ascension, when we have to ask ourselves the tough question, who am I? Because only if I know who I am and I can see through that lens can I look at that other person and see a reflection of my fears, a reflection of my beauty, a reflection of something higher. But I can only do that if I transmute my fears. Oh, I'm so grateful that I can. I have the ability to do that. We all have the ability, the power to transmute any type of trifecta of chaos that comes our way. We don't have to eat of that buffet. We don't have to drink that Kool-Aid because we're meant for so much more. And we give ourselves permission to be the cheerleader in our own life, in our own thought process, that we can do this. We're not doing it alone. We have an energy that we can unlock. Ernest Holmes calls it this energy of good, this power of good that is all around us, but we have to unlock it with the way we perceive, the way we think, the way we have identified. We are powerful beyond measure. We're grateful for that. And stepping into that is when we acknowledge and we recognize, oh my goodness, wow, this has been here the whole time. All I had to do was affirm, I am that I am. Let's take a deep breath. I am so encouraged that I am always reaching, and we are always reaching for something that is to be found in who and what we truly are. We are a manifestation of the divine. Oh, wow. Speaking and listening to those words can be powerful. But we know that as we go through this earthly walk, we have so many opportunities to recognize who we are. And when we are in those moments, we seize them and we say, I am that I am. And so it is. Thank you.